this proclamation stand as a tribute to the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Because Edward just doesn't feel Dr. Martin Luther King's activities are just simply activities. He feels that it's a practice that should be lived through our people every day. And when I see this kind of setting, it lets me know that we're living out the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King. That's what Edward is all about. It's not about the parade. It's not about justice. He's about living out Dr. King's dream. And so Edward, Mayor Harry Cunningham, the mayor of the village of Palmetto Bay, together with the village council, do hereby proclaim our deepest gratitude and appreciation to the West Perrine Community Development Corporation for their unwavering dedication to the principles of equality, justice, and community upliftment, and urge all people to join and contribute to the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by applying his life and teachings of service to inspire others to serve and remember his spirit of community. It is attested to by Ms. Missy Arocha, village clerk, and Karen Cunningham, the illustrious mayor, and the entire team, Leanne Tillman, vice mayor, Patrick Fiore, council member, Steve Cody, council member, and Marcia Matson, council member.
This is the mayor of the village of Palmetto Bay, Tamara. Let's hear her about it. They used to call it East Perrine. Back in Mr. Bell days, they called it P-Rine. When I received this proclamation, the wording from the council was, we will not let this day go by. Monday will be 95 years. Dr. King has done a lot for all of us. What are we doing? I want to commend the village of Palmetto Bay mayor and council for them stepping out and certifying, dedicating, and commemorating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Thank you, Mayor.
And in the interest of brevity, I'm joined today by Councilmember Steve Cody. I did not know we were going to be coming up, but I want to thank Dr. Hanna for all of your hard work and the corporation. You are truly keeping the dream alive, not just in word, but in deed, and we're very, very proud of you. Thank you for including us every single year. We're so proud to be here today. A big shout out to the village team that joined us this morning. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
So that they may find a place in your heart, 'cause Jesus is mine. He's mine forever. In my takes all that for happy. Let's pray, 'cause Jesus is the He won't let us down, and I know He's mine, He's mine, He's mine, He's mine.
For bringing Tyler Perry and the Harlem O.S.G so that left out South Dade residents could experience something that they would never experience if not for the champion named Ed Hanna. Now, over the years, Ed didn't do it by himself. He had a dedicated team of volunteers: Ron Toops, Hiram Williams, Pastor Dr. Ziegler, Deanna Ziegler, Bernie Richardson, Larry Porter, the Whitehead, Sam McKinnon, the West Perrine MLK Club, and posthumously, Charles Bethel, Percy, Ruthman Anderson, and others. Did I mention Nita Lawrence? No. Nita Lawrence, all right.
To our full commission as well. So if you have time this summer, come by Frank Martin School and watch that band in action. They are truly, truly very fine. The director, the guitar, me, Black musician, guitarist, Florida University. And we're proud of that because he brings so much experience to the university. As I looked on his resume, I saw millions of dollars that he raised out of Miami. And since coming to Florida, he has continued raising that money to make things happen. He is an Alzheimer's. He is a former faculty member at the as an angel.
Participated in a lot of the events here in West Perrine, as well as Florida City and Homestead, and meet a lot of people on the South End, which being a young guy from Liberty City was another experience. So I can say I kind of experienced all of Miami in a sense. And I want to also honor former commissioner, still commissioner to me, Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Moss, I always say to people in talking, it takes a strong man to say that if you want to build a Cuban museum, you want to build a Black history one as well. And that took a lot of guts, man. You know, and I really appreciate you. Sometimes I look at resolution and see what you said in there. And I said, man, that's a dreamer and a visionary right there. So thank you for everything. I was so honored because I'm still plugged into Miami, and you got your own building, bro. I'm so excited to try by and see that sign. Now, I'm gonna heed Mr. Chico and Virgo's advice because I want you guys to like me after I leave here. So, I'm throwing away 2 pages of my speech. I'm not playing, I'm throwing away. But also, don't speak too much, Brother Jackson. It's your effect too, because that part of the speech has some biblical references, and I don't want to be judged if I'm wrong. So it's fine. I want to say greetings to the city of West Perrine, this great head table here of dignitaries that sit with me, and all of the sponsors of this event. I thank you for this opportunity. So when I say it feels good to be appreciated, I mean that. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to come back to Miami, shed a little tears because, you know, it just feels so good to be in the presence of all these people here that are knowledgeable. I want to say congratulations on the celebration of your 45th annual Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. holiday celebration. It is an honor. It's the same shit. Different day, I apologize, I'm sorry. Different day. Now those are not my words. I'm just telling you what Buell would say to the class. And it took me some time to realize what Dr. Hemingway was trying to get us to understand. It took years of living, reading, and watching how people move forward, back, up, down, and for some of us who know, there are people that always like to move what? Sideways. So, you know what they do, they smile in your face all the time, they want to say to your face, come on, act like y'all know now, come on. Everybody in here, we're not in church, we ain't saved about it, right? Y'all talking, we ain't gonna fail. We're not gonna judge you. Now it took me years to be able to finally go, I got it, I understand now. It's the same shit, different what? Day. Now, thank And speaking on the thread of black history, we find that the history of blacks in America have often been marked. We have to clarify that black people did not benefit from slavery. Why must we justify what Dr. James Eaton, founder of the Meet Eaton Southeastern Regional Black Archives Research Center and Museum, would constantly say? And Dr. Eaton would say that black history is the history of America. And let's explore some of these whys. Let's take this historical. 6 decades ago, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the most prolific and sweeping civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. It was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This prohibited discrimination in public places, provided for integration of schools and other facilities, and made employment discrimination illegal. Now, the signing of this act came on the backs of people we openly honor, like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But we all know that King was not alone in this fight for equal justice in blacks in America. Harry Belafonte, who was primarily known for Calypso, thank you to the band for playing some of those songs, and he also recorded blues and jazz. Belafonte would go on to produce a Grammy-winning single, We Are the World, which raised consciousness and money around famine, relief, and he sold more than 20 million copies of this album. Belafonte focused on the critical issues of racism, poverty, and oppression in the black community. He was instrumental in the civil rights movement, serving as one of Dr. King's most trusted confidants. He was part of the organization team behind the March on Washington. Now, Belafonte's career, whose first film, Bright Road, was released in 1953, his career spanned decades. He lent his image and his fame to marches against discrimination, to draw attention to causes of inequality. He supported the Freedom Rides and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee financially. Belafonte broke down the color barrier in film by bringing self-respect to the portrayal of black characters in movies. But the question still remains, why? Why? As some of you may have seen as well, recently I came across a clip on social media of an interview between Jay Leno and Eddie Murphy. It was after the success of the June 28, 1992 film release of a movie entitled Boomerang. Murphy discussed how white film critics were upset because the movie was an all-black cast with no white leads. He went on to say that the critics thought that the black characters in the film were too successful without the great white hope. Now, the funny thing is that Murphy went on to say that no one questioned John Singleton for not having white leads in his 1991 release of Boys in the Hood. Why? We can count the years between Bright Road in 1953 and Boomerang in 1994 and see how impactful it is to a society if we allow historical traditions to saturate that society and dilute its history unchecked. Murphy knew his assignment, but society still wanted to continue to distort the contributions and strides already made by Belafonte in film, even today. I remember hearing Reverend Joseph Laurie speak in Birmingham, Alabama in 2007. Reverend Laurie asked the audience, if you don't know where you come from, then... No, he said, you'll never know when they're trying to take you back. You see, the importance of knowing your history and standing up for your history will help you to continue walking forward in your history. However, not knowing and doing nothing will have Taraji P. Henson complaining in 2024 about the same thing Monique complained about in 2009. Same stuff. Don't be scared. Same stuff, different day. But those are beautiful words now. This is where I skip all those pages that I did. Now, knowing history allows you to apply a discerning of negative activity that perpetuates the systematic injustice and discrimination that perverts our existence. We see the persistent racial inequalities in areas such as education, employment, and criminal justice and health care. Yeah. Now, I talk about discerning spirits. That's why I was going to the discerning spirits. That as I studied history, they talk about discerning spirits religiously. But I began to study history, and you learn that you can discern spirits historically. And at one time, racism was carried out physically and in full public view. The mistreatment of blacks in America came by way of fear tactics from whites. Right. White fear came as brutal attacks on Rosewood, brutal attacks on the Greenwood neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was Black Wall Street. It came by way of public lynching, and in the lynching of black men like Emmett Till and Medgar Evers. Now, after the Civil Rights Act passed, Jim Crow began to yield his power to his cousin, Jim Esquire. Because Jim Crow understood that there was a point where he understood that he who writes the law rules the land. And after the law had passed, blacks now had to deal with things like redlining and school redistricting. Right. So, since you could no longer refuse to sell homes in specific neighborhoods, they just began flagging and devaluing those areas. This was all to keep blacks in certain vicinities to mask the fact that discrimination still what? Existed. So why? Decades later, in 2023, the City National Bank was ordered to pay $30 million along with a $24 million payment from Tribal Mortgage after they was found to have discriminated against blacks and Latinos through the practice and policy of redlining. There's nothing new under the sun. It's the same, different day. Even here in Miami, the police department, during segregation, paraded down Northwest 2nd Avenue in Overtown on police bikes in full Ku Klux Klan regalia. Whether it's the police killing of George Floyd, or many years earlier, the murder of Officer McDuffie, not knowing in history seems to keep taking you where? Back. Why? There's a reason why American society has been built to have blacks in a consistent Groundhog Day loop as second-class citizens. How long will we stay in that loop? What is it about being black that causes fear in America? What is wrong with America learning the true history of the race, the only race that never asked to be brought here or came here willingly? Why do they continue to attack the preservation of the cultural heritage of the people of color? Now, initially, enslaved Africans brought to America lost traditional practices, their language, and historical artifacts by the second generation. We find that this was systemically done, as it was essential to separate blacks who spoke the same language. It was systemically done to make it illegal for blacks to be able to read. Africans in America have been under attack for ages, from being portrayed as savages in the 1915 movie The Birth of a Nation, to Cleopatra being played by Elizabeth Taylor in 1960. Colonizers often erase and diminish the histories, culture, and achievements of any indigenous population that they came upon. The erasure contributed to the marginalization and the disenfranchisement of those indigenous people. But how do we begin to face the threats? Remember the question earlier I said, if not you, then who? Facing these threats involve raising awareness, promoting proper education, challenging all stereotypes, advocating for policy changes, and fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. We must play our part in spreading hope, courage, and unity across our communities. Our ancestors, they clawed and they scratched, they sang, they marched, and they died to level the playing field for equality. Following the footsteps of Hiram Rhodes Rebel, a free man who was the first African American to serve in U.S. Congress, footsteps of Carol Moseley Braun, who was the first African American woman elected to the Senate, the steps of our 44th President, Barack Obama, and now our first, not only woman, but African American woman who became our United States Vice President. Even if she did attend Howard University. Had to put that in there. What we find in these people is that they did not just sit around complaining, because complaining would have none of them doing anything. When we look at this society and the problematic people in it who want to keep us in this perpetual loop of starting over every time something adversity happens, we must remember our history and understand why it is so important, or why was it so important to visit Grandma's house, to listen to the stories of our past while shelling peas. Grandma never wanted us to forget what they went through, so that when we came to that same fork in the road, we would know how to react. You see, it took black leaders in Miami to demand for better policing in their neighborhoods. Better yet, their own black officers to patrol their community. Because on September 1st, 1944, I heard police thought, well, I was born with this. Ralph White, Moody Hall, Clyde Lee, Edward Kimball, and John Milledge were sworn in as Miami's first 5 black police officers. They knew their assignment. If not now, then when? We must control our destiny. I spoke earlier about discerning spirits and how that works historically. I want to tell you about a herd of sheep that broke away from their stable. All right. This is where I start hooping. Now this herd of sheep, they began to follow the lead sheep. That lead sheep came to a large cliff. And that lead sheep walked right over that cliff because he was eating with his head looking down. One by one, each of those sheep followed that lead sheep over that cliff to their demise. But one of those sheep looked up to see what was happening right before him. And as she came closer and closer to that edge, he remembered what the sheep herder would do when it came too close to that cliff. The sheep remembered that the herder would turn either left or turn to the right. That sheep remembered that fork in the road that Grandma talked about was where he needed to do what he remembered to do. And that sheep just decided, I'm just going to turn left. And when that sheep turned left, all of the other sheep behind him followed and lived. He did not repeat that cycle. So here we are at the fork in the road. That fork in the road that we heard Grandma talk about. We have listened. We have heard all the complaining. We have seen this sun shine on the same earth again and again. The question I ask is, will we continue to run in that never-ending groundhog loop? Or have we decided to step off and tread new paths? Not walking back and starting all over again, but picking up from where we left off historically. When we look at this year's category of honorees, I'm not going to name them all and steal the thunder from after I speak. We recognize first, they're setting the bar for where we are going in the future. As John Henry Clark stated, history is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day.
It is a compass they use to find themselves. They all echo the sentiment of our past black leaders and beckon to answer the older man's question. If not us, then who? See, I leave you this morning. And I want everyone to look at your neighbor to the right, and ask them, if not you, then who? Now turn to your neighbor on the left and ask them, if not now, then when?
Of the United States. Beyond legislation, King's influence extended into the hearts and minds of people, leaving an indelible mark on the nation's conscience. His legacy is a call to action, challenging us to continue to work towards justice, equality, and the realization of his dream in every facet of society. In conclusion, Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy is one of leadership, again, love, and lasting change, a triumphant trio that continues to guide and inspire us as we navigate the challenges of the present to shape the future.
Unless you had an ID card, that you were working over there. That's right. And you definitely had to be away from over there before sundown. That's right. Yes. This young man is the chief of police for Miami Beach. He's the actual 21st police chief of Miami Beach Police Department as of September 1st, 2023. He has a distinguished 27-year career, and he was very instrumental in the establishment of a human trafficking unit within the department, and has been very active in organizations such as IACP, Noble, but even more so, active with doing things with children and schools to get them better acquainted and understanding what they should and should not do, and how they should and should not react when confronted with police. It's a great pleasure to also recognize Chief Wayne Jones.
Center, which is attached to Jackson Memorial. All of that comes under the bailiwick of the Jackson Health System. The piece that you may not know is that all of those operations are run by a board. They're called the Public Health Trust. And they have a chairman. The chairman happens to be also black. And so that's as far as I'll go with that introduction.
Let's give him a hand, the chairman of the board.
So I have the distinct pleasure today of recognizing some outstanding individuals who all happen to be leaders in their field of law enforcement. They all happen to be women. Thank you for the leadership established here by Ed Hanna and the group, West Perrine CDC, for honoring these women who are the leaders in our community in law enforcement. And so instead of them coming up one by one, I'm just going to have all of them come up at the same time. So please join me in welcoming Director Stephanie Daniels. She's going to come up front. Come on, keep clapping. You guys, thank you. She leads jobs from North Miami Police Department. I'm going to come down, look for good pictures. Chief Delma Noel Pratt from Miami Guard. Come on, keep clapping until she gets up here. That's all of our female chiefs out of here, right? Is there another female chief here? All right. Well, listen, you ought to take a picture of that. This is exciting. And introduce again.